So, I'm a sophomore in high school, which means I'm applying to a lot of summer programs. Now, if I was an adult, I'm sure that I would be sitting at my desk with my black coffee, churning through my application. So, I work hard, but then I play hard. Those two things are kept separate. Now you see, those lines are a little bit blurry for Gen Z. So I'm sitting there, going on TikTok, looking at that recent edit of Hyphen. And then I'm going over, reading about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case, because wasn't that new voice memo just leaked? And then I'm going on Snapchat, replying to 6 snaps, posting on my private that I'm #working hard. And then I'm fleshing out the conclusion of my essay about a problem that I'd solved before for Harvard Summer School. All of this happens within 10 minutes. Now, not to flex, but for the sake of my point, I did get into Harvard Summer School. My parents were more shocked than me, which honestly confused me because I've got great credentials. However, they had watched my working style and simply could not understand how I could produce a compelling piece of work in this way. So this sparked a fire in me. Why did I do things so different than my parents? I decided to ask Professor of Psychology at our school, Dr. Lazar Ruggiero, for the answer. I credit this to the way we have been trained to think, how we, as a society, define productivity. So, what is Gen Z productivity? I would say it's productivity defined by concise, short and sweet, valuable, and perceptive information. This new kind of productivity has been born out of the cultural reset of the internet, and no one has been affected by this more than Gen Z. I mean, I was born the same year the iPhone was invented, so I learned what unlimited data and Bluetooth was, the same time I learned how to write in cursive. To start off, let's take a look at the difference between our productivity and our parents'. Our parents think sequentially. Think of a reminders page. There's a list of things to do, some fun, some hard work, but you tick off the boxes one by one. However, I've noticed that Gen Z thinks parallelly. So think of browser tabs. There are some that are fun, like 2048, and some that are hard work, like my Harvard essay. However, all of these tabs are open at the same time, and you can switch back and forth between them. Now, both sequential thinking and parallel thinking are different and valid ways to do things. However, I'm going to tell you why Gen Z parallel thinking will be the way to go in the future. To do so, we need to travel back in time before the internet. My mom was telling me how when she was a teen, she'd have to use encyclopedias to learn things. If she wanted to learn something new, she'd have to cross her fingers and hope it was in the encyclopedia. If she wanted to learn about what was happening overseas, she'd have to hope that there was a non-biased international paper somewhere at her disposal. If she had a passion, but no book and no teacher, it'd simply fizzle out. She was limited by the amount of information that she knew, and physically couldn't dream of ideas outside of her knowledge. Before the internet, people were limited by the amount of knowledge they could acquire. However, with the age of the internet raising Gen Z, we have been exposed to so much information already. In fact, I feel confident saying that every high schooler in here probably knows a little bit about everything. With the internet, we are no longer limited to the knowledge that we store in our brains, like my mom was. Our ideas are no longer limited to just what we know. That barrier has been shattered. For example, if we don't know a word, we can Google it. If we're into K-dramas and we want to learn Korean, from a Korean, we can DM them on Instagram. Just don't get catfished though. That'd be really unfortunate. Our knowledge database is no longer limited to what we can store in our brains, but what is available on the World Wide Web. We don't have to think sequentially anymore because we can access information and open a new tab, just like that. We have the ability to spend more of our brain power thinking outside the box because we are not confined to what we know. We have changed the definition of productivity, and that is why we are the future. Gen Z will be running society in about 10 years. If we've learned anything, it's that the way we do things is not as structured as in the past. For example, a classic 9-to-5 work style may not be the way to go in the future. Upper management should be ready to accept a new, more fragmented working style in order to harvest Gen Z's full potential. So all in all, Gen Zs are the queens, the masters, the ultimates at multitasking. And because of the world we live in now, this works. Right? Well, Dr. Paul Ashley, an associate professor of cognitive psychology at the University of Kansas, doesn't quite seem to agree. In an article published in the Harvard Business Review titled, "You Can't Multitask, So Stop Trying," published in 2010, Dr. Ashley writes that we know multitaskers do less and miss information. Sadly, multitasking does not exist. We instead switch tasks. Our brain chooses which information to process. My first response to Dr. Ashley is, wow, what a sequential thinker. My second response to Dr. Ashley is, he does have a point. Multitasking has been proven to reduce efficiency, long-term memory, and creativity. However, I want to redirect your attention to the date. This article was published in 2010, only a decade after the internet became widely available to the masses. Back then, people were still doing things like my mom were, one task at a time. They went from there all the way to the boom of the internet. Of course, when people have to make this kind of adjustment, their brain has not practiced multitasking in this way. Decades ago, there was no reason to multitask. However, someone like me, who grew up with the internet and this mass overload of information, is not intimidated by all the information I am presented with. I grew up in a state where so much has always been around me, and while I'm sure my brain still chooses what information to process, it doesn't struggle with juggling all of these things like my parents' brains do. This development is called neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to adapt, modify, and change both structure and function based on experiences. So I would argue that checking TikTok while writing my essay reminded me that there are people out there living completely different worlds than me, and I should be open-minded. Reading about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard articles told me that I can't persuade everybody, so I should just be the best me that I can be and hope for the best. Going on Snapchat reminded me the importance of interconnection and relationships. And posting on my private, well, that was just me flexing. The switch from sequential thinking to parallel thinking, or the turning of tides into Gen Z productivity, is going to be the future of the workforce. To prepare for the switch, adults should be open to breaking away from current ideas of productivity and how to evaluate it. While change is scary, there is no need to worry here. Speaking not just for myself, but for all the teens here, we've seen a lot, and we know what's cool. So,